To grout the floor, the first step is to apply 100% solids epoxy grout. This is done using a steel trowel of at least 14 inches or 35 centimeters. The application should be done as shown, so there is a thin layer of epoxy over the surface of the concrete, but also enough epoxy to fill in the holes. It is not important that the holes are perfectly flush with epoxy, but working the trowel in overlapping motions will ensure the holes have enough epoxy inside them and the surface of the concrete will only be lightly coated by the epoxy. It is very important to not over-apply the epoxy, since in later stages the objective will be to remove that top layer. You will notice how thoroughly the epoxy is being worked back and forth over the surface. This is to push the epoxy into the holes while also helping to push the air inside them out. The crisscross motion helps to thoroughly fill the holes by pushing the epoxy into them from multiple angles. About the color of the epoxy, we are using a white epoxy to show how it fills the holes after the process is complete. In real conditions, choose for an epoxy that is more tan or brown, so that the holes that have been filled will more closely match the natural color of the sand particles in the concrete. This will take some experimenting, but the color of the epoxy should be determined during the mock-up phase of the project. The next step is to use calcium carbonate powder, or what is sometimes called marble flour. This is a finely ground powder that is used as a filler in the grouting process. The fine particles resemble baby powder in color and texture, and is made from ground marble pieces. There is no substituting this material, only use calcium carbonate powder. To apply is a simple step of applying by hand to the surface of the concrete in a thin but complete layer. Always be sure to apply enough that no wet spots of epoxy are visible. For our small test area, it is easy to apply from outside the area of wet epoxy, but while applying the calcium carbonate in real job site conditions, you will need to wear spiked shoes so as to not disturb the epoxy that is inside the holes, or remove it by wearing traditional work boots. It is a simple process, but the most important thing to know is that a thorough covering of the epoxy must take place while applying the calcium carbonate. Immediately after the application of the calcium carbonate powder, use any PM machine outfitted with the EGT Grout Pans. Whatever model of PM machine is being used, the weight should be in the top baskets on the handle, the steel shroud raised at least 3/16 of an inch or 4 millimeters above the floor, and the machine must be run at 25 Hertz. The objective of using the machine is to push the calcium carbonate powder into the holes where it will mix with the wet epoxy. There is no reason to worry about going over the surface more than one pass forward and one pass backward. Also, no dust collection should be attached to the machine so the calcium carbonate stays on the floor where it can fully mix with the epoxy. The EGT Grout Pans on the PM machine work by pushing the calcium carbonate and epoxy into the holes and driving out the trapped air. The EGT pans do this more thoroughly than can ever be done by hand, since the pans are crossing over the surface thousands of times in rotary motion, which is provided by the PM machine. Tipping the machine back, you can see that the EGT pans are very clean and have very little residue of wet epoxy. For the little epoxy that remains on the pans, use some chemical solvent to clean them immediately after use. Made of stainless steel, the EGT Grout Pans have a long life and are usable for 10,000 square foot or 1,000 square meters. Looking at the completed area, it appears to have a consistent appearance since the wet epoxy and calcium carbonate have been thoroughly mixed together. In the case of under-application of calcium carbonate or over-application of epoxy, there would be spots of the floor that are shiny with wet epoxy that contains no calcium carbonate. Also noticeable are dark spots in the floor. These are the holes that are filled with epoxy and calcium carbonate, and as the two components are together, the epoxy is starting to absorb into the fine calcium carbonate powder. Next is to let the floor cure for a minimum of 8 hours. After drying for 8 hours, the epoxy is removed using the PM machine, EGT number 4, and water. The objective of this step is to adequately remove the extra epoxy and also to remove scratches from the preceding diamond steps. Since we are using the machine wet, no dust collection should be attached to the PM machine. Also, the weight should be in the weight basket in the neutral position or on the grinding head depending on the concrete strength. The speed is set to 40 Hertz for best production, but also not so fast to throw water from under the machine. Remember, the purpose is to remove the grout, but also refine the concrete by removing scratches. Time should be taken to allow the tools to fully refine the concrete surface and ensure that no spots are missed. After the grout removal, it will be necessary to remove the slurry residue. Once the surface of the concrete is clean, allow it to dry. Upon inspection of the floor, the white spots that appear are in fact epoxy and calcium carbonate mixture that is hardened inside them. The mixture has fully cured and the EG pans have filled the holes to the top, which has made the floor smooth to the touch. These holes now being filled are going to make the shine more consistent, since the surface is now very consistent with very few holes remaining. As in any concrete polishing procedure, it is compulsory to use a densifier. The densifier used should be a non-film forming, silicate-based densifier. It is possible to apply by sprayer, but for this demonstration we have poured the densifier onto the surface of the concrete and then spread the material using a microfiber mop. After letting the densifier dwell for a minimum of 15 minutes, it can be allowed to dry or removed by auto scrubber. Next in the process, after the densifier is dried, is to begin the dry polishing of the concrete. Using the EGT No. 5 polishing pad, the PM machine is run over the surface to continue refining the concrete and creating a better shine. Following the EGT No. 5 will be the EGT No. 6, No. 7, and No. 8, all run in the same disciplined way, careful to not miss any spot of the concrete. It is noticeable that the concrete surface is becoming more and more shiny as the video progresses. This is because the EGT system is refining the concrete to become more and more reflective of light and objects, and also thanks to the EG pans having filled the holes completely. The clarity and reflection seen here is only possible by using the EG pan process and the EGT Diamond System from STI. About the tool system being used, it is the EGT Diamond System from STI. The EGT Diamond System is a numbered and colored diamond system that has 8 steps, is run dry, and will produce the best shine of any competing brand or other STI product. Once completed, the surface has a very high reflection and great clarity. Thanks to the EG pans, the holes are now filled and the surface is smooth. Thanks to the EGT Diamond System, the floor has a brilliant shine. This system video is brought to you by STI. We are the company that knows the polishing industry, and our STI products are the only products you should buy and use for your concrete polishing projects. Achieving this result is something we do every day and everywhere. Thank you for watching.